Welcome to this month's Let's Talk Integrity and Ethics. And we're doing it, as you can tell, from our offices, which I think you can also tell we did not clean up the offices for today. This is what they normally look like. But I'm joined today by the two deputy directors of DHS, Dawn Staley and Keisa Smith. And the three of us decided we wanted to just spend a few minutes today talking to all of you about COVID-19. And I know you are as tired of it as we are. And that's honestly why we wanted to talk for a moment. I think all of us here, and I know all of you have been extremely alarmed by the rise in cases lately here and across the country. I read this morning, and I heard it yesterday, but I read this morning something the governor said, and it actually just stopped me in my tracks. I'm going to take a second and read it. He made this comment yesterday, and in his press conference, after he talked about some information he had received from the White House about the trajectory that Arkansas is on. He said, "We look at the holiday season that is approaching, and we have to be mindful that if Arkansas continues at the present pace over the last 2 days, then Arkansas will have an additional 1,000 Arkansans that will die as a result of COVID-19 between now and Christmas." And y'all, that, I don't know about you, but that just gives me chills even to read it. We are in a time when we really, really cannot all be tired of this. And that's what Dawn and Keisa and I were talking about. We really have to all take it extremely seriously. And I know everyone is, but we really have to double down on our efforts. That's partly why you see us sitting here. This is what we have been doing, is sitting here looking at a computer screen for work now. We, I know different ones of you have different roles to play, and you cannot sit and look at a computer screen. But whatever you are doing, we have to take seriously masking, washing hands, maintaining distance. It seems so simple, but it is so hard to continue to do. We see here in this office, all that we see here in this office, what goes on. We get reports on everything. Jen Schuler and Jeff Williams, our COVID response team, they are really great about not only giving us very detailed reports, but we see where we have to clean, we see where we don't have to clean. We learn what works and what doesn't work. And we see the differences between when folks in an office are making sure that they maintain distance from each other and that they wear their masks when they're around each other, and when they don't. But by not just the number of people that get quarantined, but also, unfortunately, when we see infection spread. So I thought we would just take a little time today, and the three of us just talk a little bit about some of the things that we're seeing, so that all of you can really be conscious of what you have to do. For us, it's been a matter of, unfortunately, one of the things, I love the people I work with, but we just don't have the ability to chit chat like we used to. We used to kind of all gather in the little break room. We're very, very, very careful now. If one of us is in there heating up something in a microwave, no one else goes in there until that person goes out, and then somebody else goes in, and we wipe it down. And yes, that seems extreme, but we are all trying really hard to keep things safe. mean, Dawn and Kisa, y'all chime in because you're the ones who are working directly with a lot of the reports that come through and with a lot of the offices on what's happening.
Absolutely. So I'm happy to start, and Kisa can add. First, want to recognize that, we are seeing some improvement over the last couple of weeks, and I think, folks hopefully have had a chance to see that in Secretary Gillespie's weekly email. We are starting to highlight where we see some best practices, or we're seeing some, as we've had to do some cleanings in areas, seeing some good things that we want to encourage that staff continue to do, particularly as we're seeing the rising number in cases across the state. So definitely want to acknowledge and we'll continue to identify those best practices in those areas where we do see that we're doing what we're supposed to. And as a result, we're having to quarantine fewer staff when we have positive cases. So, I mean, that's a good thing, because unfortunately we have had situations, and I know many of you have experienced that as well, where we've had almost entire offices that we've had to quarantine as a result of a positive case. And so definitely, like I first want to recognize that I think we are making some improvement in that area. That said, we are still seeing, and we've been talking with Jeff and Jen to understand a little bit more about what we can do, some of what they're seeing, the feedback that we're getting about ways that we can further help reduce the spread, particularly within the workplace. And so some things that have been mentioned to us that we wanted to share with the rest of the group are really being mindful of in-person activities. I know with technology, we're all trying to learn how to use Zoom or Teams, and I know at times that can be a challenge. We all at times struggle to figure out how to share something or how to switch back and forth between the two. But that said, they are important tools to help us, when we do have to have meetings. I think really trying to limit, having in-person meetings. That said, we know there are times where we do have to get together in person to do things. And that's why it's so important that, we protect ourselves when we're doing that. That said, we also know that, we're, as people, we're very accustomed to wanting to do things together, whether it's, Secretary Gillespie said, standing around, the kitchen talking and just kind of asking about what somebody saw last night, as they're watching TV, or what folks did over the weekend, as we've had some nice weather. But we also know that we've really had to cut back on being able to actually eat together, right? And take time to celebrate, whether it's, somebody's birthday or having a piece of cake or pie. And so we know that, folks are still, we're still trying to figure out ways to do some of those things. And that's, whether we use technology or whatnot, but we do know that, I think trying to be mindful of, if we are going to, go out together or eat together, that we're still doing those things that we know can help us prevent that spread. Because we know that, sitting together in close distances, less than 6 feet, taking off our masks, it does increase the risk of potentially sharing not just COVID, but also, it's cold and flu season. So trying to help keep that out of the office as well. And then I think the other activity that wanted to mention, is carpooling, especially this time of year as it gets colder. I know it's tougher to get up and maybe get that car started and get going in the morning, and might be easier just to catch a ride. But we know that that's also an area where, as we're all bundled up, making sure that if we're going to do that, that we are taking precautions, such as making sure we have the air exchange off, we have windows open, we're wearing masks. But I think if we can, to the extent possible, trying to avoid that, because we do know that that is an activity where, we can, transmit, germs back and forth. So, those are just a few of the activities that we've identified thus far, and we'll continue obviously to share those with folks. And we just really want to emphasize how important it is to take care of ourselves right now, but also our loved ones. Whatever we can do to help reduce the spread within our workplace and in our homes is so important, especially as we prepare to go into the holiday season.
And I'll just double down on what Dawn said, because she hit the high points of what we are seeing. I think at last count, just this week, we're only at Wednesday, I believe we are at 7 offices, separate offices that have had to be cleaned this week. And my count could be wrong. And if it's wrong, then the number is probably higher than 7. we're probably getting 2 to 3, if not more, requests for cleanings per day. I will absolutely echo what Dawn said. We are seeing that staff are really making the effort, meaning that, we're having to clean where an individual was, but not multiple individuals, which means that you all are social distancing, which we are very happy to see. But we are still having some instances, as Dawn pointed out, pertaining to staff congregation. And one of the biggest things, guys, I'll just be blunt, is we still want to potluck and we still want to eat together. And we fully understand that. Sitting in your office or your space for 7 to 8 hours with no interactions is tough. However, that has been where we have seen instances where we have had to send multiple staff home. And we don't want spread to happen at work. We don't want the possibility that you would take that back to your families. It's very important for us to try to keep you all as safe as possible. And so that's why we're doing the things that we're doing in the office. And we appreciate all the work that you've done, but we also just want to remind you that familiarity is what will cause us to have problems during this pandemic. It feels awkward, but if I have to go into Dawn's office, I put my mask on, and she puts hers on. And that is what we do. And it's odd and it's tiring, but we do that to make sure that we keep each other protected.
And I think, Dawn, there's been last week CDC put out some good news about masks that it made us all feel better about it.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Besides the fact that it's helping, we knew that there was a lot of evidence that said wearing a mask helps protect others, right? In terms of from the respiratory droplets, from, coughing, sneezing, just talking, right? Sometimes that can come out, when we're not wearing a mask. But new evidence is showing that wearing a mask also helps the person who's wearing it. Actually, several studies have shown that in many cases, it can reduce it by up to 50%, depending upon the mask, the number of layers that are contained within the mask. So, we just think that's a great way to help reinforce that, wearing it properly, so of course, over your mouth and nose, not only protects other people, but protects you. And I think it provides even more support for the importance of the three W's. And I didn't make this up, but I think it's a great reminder of wear a mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance.
Yep. It's very well said. We were talking yesterday. The holidays are coming up, and I think that's what's got everybody even more afraid, right? Is the holidays are coming up, and that is a time when we all do gather. And if we don't, as a state, somehow keep this spread from continuing to rise, we are really going to be in horrible shape come December. And, I know for me, I am going to see my mother for the first time in many, many, many months, and she's 83 years old. So my sister and I both have been really for the last, for about a week now, we have, while I'm continuing to come to work, I am, as they will all tell you, really staying far away from everybody and just taking every single precaution I can take. And at home, we're doing the same thing. We have stepped back from some of the things we were doing just to take those extra steps of not seeing anyone unless we actually have to, and really minimizing our contact with the outside world, because we want to make sure when we go see her that we don't, she is very isolated, and so she's safe, but she's very, very, very lonely. So when we see her, we want to make sure it does not result in us giving her COVID accidentally. I'm actually going to go take a diagnostic test on Friday. You can do that. I don't think I have anything, but you can take a test just to be sure. And that I'll do that on my way in. A diagnostic test, when there are no indications and no doctor saying you might have this or you have some of the symptoms, you need to be tested. This is just a pure voluntary, I'm going to do it just to make sure before I see my mother that I don't have COVID. And a diagnostic test will allow me to continue to work because I have no symptoms, no reason to think I have it, but it will give me that extra bit of certainty when I see her. So I mention that because I don't know if any of you are going to be seeing family, and it is something that is an option for you to do on your own. I mean, Kisa, I don't know if you want to elaborate, because I know there's always confusion around types of testing.
Yeah, and many of you all have seen our internal policy, so we just want to remind you that there is a difference between a diagnostic test and a surveillance test. So a diagnostic test is just what Cindy described. It is, I am about to go out of state, or I'm about to see elderly parents. I believe that I've taken every single precaution that I should have. I'm not feeling any symptoms. I'm not, none of the things tied to COVID am I experiencing, but I want to be absolutely sure when I go see my family member that I do not have COVID. You can go get a diagnostic test. Those are available. And I know firsthand, because you all know, several times when I do my message, I talk about my daughter, who is a college student down in Louisiana, whose spread is just as fast, actually much faster, down there than it is here. She has come home for the rest of the semester. Before she came home, she had to take a diagnostic test, meaning I told her, you have to take a diagnostic test before you come home. I'm not letting you come home. So she took one, and she took it at Walgreens for free. And it was a very easy process. She went on their website and signed up and was able to take the test. And once she got the results, she packed up and came home. Those things are important. We want to make sure that you all understand, as it pertains to our policy, that at any point of time, you can get those diagnostic tests and still work. I think there is some confusion about, the difference between a diagnostic test, meaning I just want to be safe, and someone in your home has COVID, or you are experiencing symptoms, so that you are taking a surveillance test. When you take a surveillance test, we want you to stay home, because we want to make sure you are not potentially positive and spreading it as you're at the office. So we have given that clarification to your HR staff. If you have questions, ask your supervisor, because we do want you to be careful during this time.
We also see the stories here every day about all that y'all are doing, not just to keep each other safe and keep yourselves safe, but we also do see the incredible work you're doing to continue to serve people. What we do here is very important. It is critical, and y'all, so many of you are just being so brave and are doing such amazing work. We all need to do everything we can to make sure that even as we keep serving, we are also keeping each other safe, keeping our families safe, and keeping ourselves safe. And I hope you know how much we care and worry. I know that doesn't accomplish anything, but it is where every day we are looking at what's going on, and every day we are trying to think about what else we could do. Amy and our communications team they're working on a series of videos right now, and we've got both family members of DHS employees, as well as some current DHS employees who have volunteered to talk on these videos about what it's like to have COVID, what it's like to lose someone to COVID, what goes on. I mean, these are important videos in my mind that they've decided to do, because it helps remind all of us that this isn't routine. We are still in a true public health emergency, and we cannot treat it routinely. You know, I'm sure all of you, like us, were really ecstatic to hear the news that there are vaccines that are actually coming through trials showing incredibly positive results and starting towards that last leg before they can start to distribute them out and around. So that glimmer of hope on the horizon, I think, is just really fabulous. It's nice to know there will be a light at the end of this tunnel, and we're not just going to be in this for forever. And I hope that will help. It helps me feel like, all right, I can keep doing this. I can stay doubled down, because this will end. It's not ending tomorrow, but it will end. And I think that news is really excellent for all of us. But as we get through the next few months, we are asking all of you to keep reminding each other, right? No reason to feel awkward about wearing a mask. No reason to feel awkward about asking somebody to put on a mask. Just no reason to feel awkward saying, do you mind just dropping the papers over there and I will go get them? No reason to feel awkward about saying, do you mind sitting way over there? Then we can talk from a distance. Take those steps. It's going to be cold, but meetings outdoors are better with family members or neighbors or whatever. Keeping windows open when you're around others, as Dawn said, whether in a car or in a home, is actually a good thing. So we're all just going to have to find a way to get through the next few months. But I think with that was really what we wanted to talk to you about today.
Cindy, can I?
Yes, please.
Just one quick thing, one correction. We switched the terms, and so you'll have to forgive us. We've been talking about this at length, but we switched the terms of the test. Surveillance test are what Cindy and I were talking about in terms of what Cindy's going to take and what my daughter took before she came. Diagnostic test is the test that you take when you are in fact experiencing symptoms. So think diagnostic, diagnosis. If I'm having symptoms, I look for a diagnosis, and that's a diagnostic test. I would also like to say thank you to the 4 people that text me to say, you got that back.
Nothing quite like us talking about it and getting the names wrong, is there? So I am taking a surveillance test on Friday because I don't have any symptoms. So yes, surveillance test Friday. I can come to work Friday because I'm taking a surveillance test. Sorry about the confusion. And but as Kisa said, it is in writing if you get confused about it. And in fact, we will ask Amy if she wouldn't mind just putting that back out again today so that everybody can quickly reference it, since we've addressed that. And others may want to go take a surveillance test before they see family members, if they are seeing anyone. We're keeping ours extremely small. It's just the 3 of us. And I think that's also an important thing to remember to do this Thanksgiving. Bigger gatherings later, one day, when we're all able to get together again. So with that, we will sign off for today, unless Dawn or Kisa, y'all have anything else?
No, we just appreciate everyone for the efforts you're taking. We're all going to continue to power through this.
Yep, really, really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.